Hello viewers, seeing as this week's daily races aren't the most exciting, let me bring you this one. This one was a far more exciting one for a couple of months ago, and it serves up a couple of very big lessons in the world of not just Gran Turismo but just racing in general. And the first one of which is going to be how not to throw away a race. We'll see exactly what I mean about that in a moment's time. We are going to ride on board during the course of this race with 3 different cars, and they are the 3 cars in the top 3. So myself here in the Toyota Supra, the leader there also in the Toyota Supra, and then the car behind, which we just saw, is in the BMW. And for context, this is a daily race that happened a couple of months ago around St. Croix C, a lengthy circuit, 3.5 minutes per lap, and it's in Group 3 cars. And it was quite a simple strategy in terms of pit stops. Everyone had to go in at least once. You didn't necessarily have to change tyres, but tyre wear was quite high, so it was probably the better option to take the tyre change. So quite quickly here, this BMW looking like he's already looking for a way by, up into second, and it's quite clear that despite the very close qualifying times between myself and the leader actually has much better race pace at this moment and is already beginning to open that advantage to over a second now. I think the difference in qualifying between the two of us was less than half a tenth. It was quite close, but the race pace at this point here isn't proven to be that close already. So through this right-hander, it is quite an awkward corner onto the bridge. The BMW is quite clearly all over me here. Much better grip, especially through the first 2 sectors of this track. First couple of sectors, very much reliant on grip and downforce and just stability. And it seems that the BMW has more of that compared to the Supra. But this is where the Supra can really stretch its legs. The back straight here at St. Croix, one of the longest straights in the game, or one of the longer ones for sure. Perhaps not the longest, especially if you take a look at Special Stage Route X. But this is certainly a straight to be reckoned with. And in the slipstream, you can see here that the BMW is barely keeping with me. But as we head into the big braking zone here, at the end of the straight, take a look at the radar. I sensed that he was close and getting closer, but not close enough to go for that move. I mean, it could have been a big dive bomb, but as you can probably tell by this race so far, everyone playing it quite safe and just not really going for anything quite stupid at this moment. We're into the final sector, and it's been, as I say, quite a safe and solid race for everyone so far. But that is just about to change for the race leader. The race leader has just had a textbook lap, really. Started from pole, didn't really make any mistakes, pulled away, has a 1.6 second advantage. And so, I mean, that's pretty much as good as it gets, really. And we're actually going to go on board now with the leader, because this is where things are about to go wrong. And, I mean, let's take a look at this. Grinds off of the pit wall, and then heading through turn 1, which is normally flat out, goes in way too early, hits the wall on the inside, then on the outside, then back across to the outside again. And all of that debacle hands him a nice 1.5 second penalty. And obviously I've just seen that, and I now know that as long as I stay within, let's say, about a second or 1.5 seconds, then I should theoretically get into the lead once that penalty is served, albeit now with massive pressure from the BMW. So, I mean, answers in the comments. What do you reckon happened to that guy there? It seemed like a really weird incident. I suppose these days, with all the distraction we have with our phones and second monitors and whatever it is, there's a plethora, however you say it, of reasons why he may have just dropped the ball there and smashed into barrier. So, I mean, that's going to hand me the advantage. It looked like a very solid first lap. He was ticking off all the boxes, and then suddenly it all went completely wrong. So now I'm going to try and keep up with him. Gap remaining just over 1 second. He doesn't seem to be making any further mistakes, other than nearly having a big oversteer moment and almost losing control, but keeping it just about going in the right direction. BMW sticking with me. So despite the pressure from behind, I knew that there's not too much point in defending or fighting for this position. It really is just about minimizing time loss to this car in front. You know, if this BMW had gone through, I wouldn't have really fought it too much, as he has a massive moment onto the bridge. That is an awkward corner. There's quite a few bumps on that turn, and if you get it wrong as you go over a slight crest, it's very easy for the car to go very light and for you to lose control. So here the leader, bit of a twitch on the exit, quite a few corners here with lots of elevation change and a few bumps. Can definitely upset the car if you don't quite get it right. Bit of a poor run onto the straight here, I would say, from the leader. Just grinding off of the wall on the inside, it looked like. And I'm going to tuck into the slipstream. And this is where the penalty line is, halfway down the longest straight, and it's really not a nice place to have to serve a penalty. I'm easily going to sail by into the lead, as is the BMW. I mean, there goes your lesson, really, I suppose. Pay attention through turn one. Normally that's a flat out corner. Don't get distracted. I mean, I don't know why that guy went into the wall at turn one. It's anyone's guess, really. But, I mean, he's learnt the lesson, so you don't have to. Just pay attention. So as we progress here, it's about to get a lot worse for this guy, because he's just lost the lead. Down in third. He could easily still win the race from here. It's not completely over, but it half is now, because he goes wide there, gets dirty tyres and a half-second penalty, and through here he's got no grip because of the dirty tyres. And he keeps his foot flat to the floor. I don't know why. And just goes off into the grass, into the wall once again, gets a 2-second penalty. And I mean, that is a masterclass in how to lose a race, which was looking very good. At a 1.6 second margin, 1 lap ago, and now he's in third with a 2-second penalty. So it couldn't have really flipped more 180 than that. We're going to go through turn one correctly, making sure we don't hit into the wall on the inside. Lifting off the power, really coasting and carrying the speed through turn number 2 quite nicely. Quite a nice flow around this circuit, and it's good to see it in the daily races. And just for extra measure here, the unfortunate Spaniard is going to be handed another 3-second penalty for crossing the pit entry line, or the exit line, I'm not sure which one. And that is going to be, I mean, that's up there with one of the worst laps I've seen in a long time. Pretty much 7 seconds worth of penalties within the space of 1 lap. I suppose answers in the comments as to your longest or most amount of penalties in 1 lap. I think I've got more than 10 seconds before, but certainly not something to be proud of. But it happens from time to time, I suppose. As we can see here, the BMW firmly in the slipstream, still trying to find that way through, but not quite able to do it at this point, as we're pretty much, I would say, halfway into this race, or just shy of that. So I've driven, I would say, a fairly measured race so far. Ideally my pace would be slightly quicker and I just put away from this guy, but that hasn't really proven to be the case. I would say I've driven quite consistently, no mistakes really to report of, but just can't really shake this guy from behind. Can't really get rid of him, so I'm going to have to deal with him from here to the end of the race. Coming down this fast sweeping chicane down into the bridge corner. Again, carry a little bit too much speed on the entry, have to sacrifice it on the exit. That's going to give the BMW a good run. He's done that every lap. He's had a much better run through that corner every lap so far. So this was bound to happen at some point. He had a run there and momentarily takes the lead of the race. It's very close between us. Very close between him and the wall. I'm just about going to retake the lead. So very close battling, very close fighting. But we're going to retake the lead. I don't think that would have worked out for him anyway, given the straight line prowess of Supra compared to the BMW. And now this is his chance to potentially go for this race lead, as he tucks firmly into the slipstream, a little bit closer this time compared to the previous lap. And so he might be able to get this one done. I'm firmly going to move over to the right hand side. There's no question that I want him on the left. Give myself the inside for this next corner. As we get onto the brakes, release the brake, sail through the corner. You can try it around the outside, but it's really unlikely that's going to happen. We're on similar amounts of grip in terms of our tyre wear, and so it's going to be really difficult for him to engineer something through that turn. I noticed he was carrying some really good speed through a lot of these corners, just drift onto the grass slightly there, but nothing too bad. And this is where the strategy difference is going to come into effect. And this is why this race turned out to be a really exciting one. Not only because, of course, the leader seemed to make a catalogue of errors. You know, at the end of lap 1, you'd probably just predict that the Spaniard would have just sailed off into the distance and would have won the race, and that would happen most of the time. However, on this occasion, that was not the case, and it's just given us an easy chance here for the race win. We're going to pull in. The BMW, interestingly, is going to continue. If you're going to change your tyres, you might as well do it on this lap. End of 3, maybe the end of 2. So we're going to go in, change our tyres. We're going to take a look at the BMW continuing around the circuit on the bottom right of the screen. As we change our tyres, we lose a couple of seconds because of that. But the fresh tyres is going to help us from here to the end. So a really interesting strategy. I mean, you do have to come in. This is the main advantage we have. Look at that. Fresh tyres. He's got pretty much half of his grip remaining on his set. And the main thing I'm looking at in this exact scenario, where a car hasn't pitted yet, is the gap between myself and them. Coming out of the pits, and it's 18.6, 18.7. So ideally, I need to see that gap coming down. I have fresh tyres, and therefore I should, theoretically, be gaining on this guy. There's no question that I should be quicker, but that isn't really proving to be what's happening. This guy, yes, he has less grip, but he hasn't really got so little grip that he's gone off the edge of a cliff in terms of the grip. So I'm going to have to work a little bit harder here to try to catch up. Meanwhile, back with our Spanish friend, going to make his race even worse, have a little bit of a twitch. Get handed another penalty, so Barrier has been met once again. An absolute disaster from that guy. He's mired down in 7th at this moment, when he really ought to be easily in the lead. So the gap remaining between myself and the leader, the BMW, 18.8. So it's about the same as it was when I came out of the pit lane. 18.5 or 18.6 by this point. And this is where I can actually rein in some of that gap, given the Toyota Supra's superior top speed. Again, maybe 3/10, perhaps 4/10 down here. So about 4/10 gained. So that's something, I suppose. But it really ought to have been at least a second, I would have thought. But this is going to be really interesting now, because he's coming through the last couple of corners of the lap, and he's going to come in for his pit stop. And this is where he's going to make a really interesting decision, because taking a tyre change costs you about 4 to 5 seconds. And even if he did that, I think he might even come out maybe just in front. Maybe it would have been really close between the two of us. But actually, he's going to head into the pit lane here and opt for the no tyre change strategy. So you still have to do the pit stop, but you don't necessarily have to change tyres. As we come through here, the gap comes down to 17.9, 17.8. So I have gained some time. As he leaves the pit lane, we are going to get a sighter of him up in the distance. There he is. And so this makes for a really interesting scenario. The gap is slightly coming down, as I have the better straight line speed, and I did not come out of the pit lane. So the gap as we go through turn number 1, turn number 2, 2 seconds. And he has very worn tyres, as you can see on the bottom left. And it's a straight dash from here to the end. And this turned out to be a really interesting scenario. I really admire that this guy went for something different and tried to, force my hand a bit and just tried to force something different. It's really easy to fall into a safe strategy, pit at the end of lap 3 and change tyres and do the really safe and sensible thing. But sometimes you've got to respect when someone just goes for something a little bit more rogue and tries something different. So let's see if it pays off for him, because it was a bold decision. Now through this first couple of sections of this lap, I would say the BMW was actually incredibly strong and was marginally better than me. So even still, even with this massive tyre wear advantage, I'm not gaining the most amount of time. Ideally, I really need to be in slipstream range by the time we get to that back straight. We saw that I gained about 4/10 on that straight alone. So he's going to have a really hard time trying to keep me behind if I get within slipstream range in about a minute's time. So heading down the hill, you can see he's having a couple of moments there. The gap just over 1 second, so I'm definitely gaining. Not many corners left before we get to that back straight. We've got the big bridge coming up. into this one. He was always strong through here, but I've just got a massive advantage in terms of grip. And so the gap comes down to 0.8. 2 corners remaining until we get to that back straight. And so I just need to gain maybe 0.2 more. That comes down to 0.6. So we've gained some on straight line speed alone. And I've got to say, this guy is driving really well for the amount of grip he has. It really is quite a low amount of grip, and you can tell that it's beginning to go off the edge of a cliff. As we go into the back straight, 0.4 behind, he's going to move to the inside to try to break the toe. I'm not having any of it. I'm going to stay remaining firmly right behind him. Human DRS engaged. He's not really got much of a chance here. And so, brave strategy. Got to give it to him. But it's not quite going to pay off, as we are going to go into the lead on the final sector, pretty much, of the final lap. He's going to try around the outside. But sadly for him, he's going to run out of grip here. Just drive a little bit too hard. Trying to push a bit too much. And go off onto the grass. And that pretty much seals the race in my favour. So it was a really interesting race, this one. Right from the start, I didn't expect to win it. I had a threat from in front with a quicker driver who seemed to be pulling away, who then made loads of mistakes. And then I had a threat from behind of someone who went for a rogue strategy, who's clearly a very quick driver. There's no question. I would say that he was probably quicker given he had a slightly worse car. But it was a really good battle. Didn't really put much of a foot wrong, and eventually come through to win the race. So a really pleasing one, this one. Eventually, after 17.5 minutes, collecting, at long last, another win. I'll take that win. I'll take that win. He made me work for it. That was a very good race.